Hello, this is Gavin Palmer with Hero Looking for Group, talking to you about GPT-4 and how to use it to learn, because this technology is basically putting the best teacher for you in your hands, and it will get better. And so in this video, I will attempt to demonstrate how you can use this technology to learn the things which are most valuable so you can do error correction. And maybe we can all start doing more error correction together, because in my opinion, this is very important. So let's start with some feedback I received in a previous video, which said that these videos can be choppy. There's some quality issues. So I used GPT-4 to try and solve that problem and let me know, are these videos still choppy? I'm using the same hardware. So I'll show you how I solved that problem with the help of a good teacher in GPT-4. Okay, so I said, my Open Broadcaster Studio recording is choppy. What can I do to fix it? And I had some recommendations and I implemented those recommendations. And so you can let me know if, the image quality is better. And I just want to point this out as a way to use feedback from the audience, which we should be trying to do, and we can use technology to do that better. And then because every member in the audience, because their attention is valuable, because your attention is valuable, I can't just expect that audience member to provide all the answers. I can then take their idea and run it by the large language model in order to try and extract useful information to help me understand that other person better without wasting their time. So that's an example, and that's a pattern of how we can and should be using this technology. So I'm going to move on to the second issue, is how to do government. This is a really interesting problem that I'm thinking about, because I do live streams. I've hosted a few live streams, and I've been kicked out of a few Discord servers, and so I'm really curious about how to do government. And part of the reason I have been kicked out of Discord servers is because I want to learn how to do government better, and I might make recommendations. So let's see if the large language model can help us learn how to do government better. So let's do that now. So yesterday I said, write an essay about how an organization's policies for deciding who should be allowed on the platform and who should not be allowed on the platform. And so that allowed me to start brainstorming, and I read through, defining the scope. Every organization kind of has something they aim at doing, and then striking a balance and ensuring consistency and fairness, adapting to evolving norms and technologies. That's the error correction process. We need to clearly communicate rules, implement an impartial enforcement process, periodically reviewing and updating policies. There you go, more error correction. And then they recommend promoting diversity and inclusivity. That's an issue that's hard to do. Addressing systemic issues, encourage user feedback and collaboration. There's the error correction process. And educate users. So then I said, rewrite the policies for a live chat where people can use voice and video, and up to 10 people can be invited into the live stream at one time. This live chat can be streamed to many destinations simultaneously. And so I'm brainstorming specifically about live chat, because it occurred to me that the rules for a live stream can be different than the rules for something that's pre-recorded. So I went through and got some feedback and did this brainstorming activity, attempting to figure out how to deal with live streaming. And I eventually said, how do you identify disrespectful behavior while encouraging people to disagree? And so you have to establish guidelines and focus on ideas, not individuals, model respectful behavior, encourage active listening, provide constructive feedback, promote empathy and understanding, monitor and enforce guidelines, provide channels for reporting and addressing concerns. So this is how I generated my video yesterday on my other Write in Gavin Palmer YouTube channel about leadership. And maybe I used the wrong word. leadership, but essentially I am trying to figure out rules that I use when engaging with people and live streams or private conversations. I'm trying to figure out the right policies for this so that we can we can be as productive as possible, do as much good as possible. And then I said, create a title and description for a YouTube video where I discuss identifying leaders and deciding on who should and should not be invited to the table of leaders discussing important topics. So, there's the process of being able to identify people who are brought to the table. And then kind of the next question is, it has something to do with, well, how should those people make decisions? And so that's what we'll go into next. Okay, so I joined some Discord servers where people talk about artificial intelligence. And so I prompted GPT-4 with, I joined a Discord chat server and will share their rules. Why should they ask people to avoid arguing about the decisions made by the server staff? These are their rules. And so I had a question about the rules, and then instead of, if I go to the server staff and just question the rules that I need to accept right out of the beginning, then I'm going to be breaking the rules because they don't really want us questioning the decisions of the server staff. So now I'm going to use a large language model. I'm not going to waste people's time. So I'll use this artificial intelligence to help me learn why they are doing what they are doing. And so the response is, the server staff is asking people to avoid arguing about their decisions in order to maintain a harmonious and respectful environment within the Discord server. Arguing with staff decisions can lead to disruptive and contentious conversations that distract from the server's primary purpose, which is fostering a community with a shared interest in AI. Such arguments can also undermine the authority of the server staff, making it more difficult for them to enforce the rules and maintain a positive atmosphere. This stuff's all good. By directing users to contact a mod if they are unsatisfied with a staff decision, the server staff can address concerns privately without causing unnecessary drama or tension within the server. This approach helps to maintain a respectful and civil environment, allowing members to focus on engaging in productive discussions and enjoying their shared interest. And so lots of ideas come to mind because I'm interested in AI and technology and government, right? And I have to, I risk being kicked out of a community, when a community isn't necessarily focused on, technology and government. And the thing is government's everywhere. There's self-government for ourselves. There's government within our home, within our neighborhood, within the companies we work for, Discord servers, these platforms that we use to communicate. There's all these governments, even including your local city government and state, country, whatever, international. And we have not figured out how to do this right. And so I'm very interested in this topic. Click the Discord link in the description below if you're interested in this topic. So my next prompt was, the strategy is prone to corruption within the server staff. And this is the problem that we face everywhere. Corruption within ourselves, corruption as within the people who are the heads of the house. If you're a child, for example, you might have parents that are corrupt. I mean, we're all corrupt at every level. So what do we do about that, right? And maybe the large language model can help us. And the large language model says, you are correct that this strategy has the potential for corruption within the server staff. If unchecked, the staff might abuse their power or make decisions that are not in the best interest of the community. However, there are ways to mitigate the risks associated with potential corruption. Number one, establishing a clear set of guidelines and expectations for server staff, which outlines their responsibilities and limits their power. So where are those, right? Do we have clear guidelines and expectations? I know that I try to develop those for myself and develop them with my wife in my house. And so I think this is important. I don't see this happening. It's not transparent, and which is number two, encouraging transparency and open communication between staff members and the community, which means that the processes and policies of the server staff, it should be visible to the community. Number 3, implementing a system for members to report staff misconduct anonymously, ensuring that they feel comfortable sharing any concerns without fear of retribution. That's nice. Number 4, setting up a system of checks and balances, such as having multiple moderators with equal authority who can hold each other accountable, or having an independent third party responsible for overseeing server operations. These are valid strategies, and they have been used with success. They still have risks. Number 5, regularly rotating staff positions to prevent any one individual from accumulating too much power or influence. Pretty good idea. There's questions on how to do that properly. So I responded, I'm interested in using AI and government. This means that my ideas may appear to be a criticism directed towards government, including the government imposed by the staff of the Discord server. How should I go about interacting in the Discord server while sharing my thoughts? When sharing your thoughts and ideas about AI and government in the Discord server, it is essential to follow the rules and guidelines set by the server staff while maintaining a respectful and civil tone. Here are some tips for discussing potential sensitive topics without causing unnecessary conflict. Number 1, focus on ideas, not individuals. We've heard that one before. Number 2, be respectful and considerate. I'm learning. Number 3, provide context and explanation. Here's the context and explanation. Encourage open dialogue. There's comments below, and I have a Discord server. That's an interesting point. There are some Discord servers that do not allow self-promotion, which is, questionable, right? I can understand why, and we could ask the large language model why. But there's always a cost and a benefit for every decision. Number 5, be mindful of the server's purpose. That is a very important point. I've made the mistake of not being mindful of the server's purpose, and also I think, some communities make the mistake of not identifying their purpose and communicating it. Number 6, follow the server rules and guidelines. Ensure that your conversations adhere to the rules laid out by the server staff. If you are unaware whether a particular topic or comment is appropriate, consult with a staff member for guidance. That's a good point. By following these tips, you can foster a respectful and productive dialogue about AI and government while maintaining a positive atmosphere within the Discord server. So I like to try and send videos like this to individuals who are moderators instead of just dumping it in the community, because I'm actually interested in connecting with the people who are, the staff members, people who are helping make decisions within a body, right? So I'm interested in connecting with the governing body and trying to provide, technical innovation, technical ideas, technical recommendations, analysis for the benefit of communities who have many different goals and purposes. So I responded, let's create a software system which allows those in power to make decisions collectively. What are the risks and benefits of allowing individuals who make decisions to remain anonymous? So this is an idea that comes to mind. So when I impose myself on an individual, all of a sudden there will be the perception that I am the enemy, so whoever believes that the person who had force imposed on them was mistreated, all of those people will believe that I am the enemy. And so one approach is to have anonymity in the decision-making process. So for example, you could have a bot in a Discord server, and that would serve as the interface. So when someone is banned, you don't know who banned them, and you don't have to know exactly who banned them. And that's the idea I'm playing with. And the thing is, there are costs and benefits. So the response, the benefits, it encourages open and honest discussion. Right? So anonymity allows individuals to express their thoughts and opinions without fear of retribution or backlash. Number 2, reduces bias and favoritism. By removing personal identities, decision makers can focus on the merits of ideas and proposals rather than the individuals behind them. Number 3, protects privacy. Anonymity can help protect the privacy of decision makers, particularly in situations where sensitive or controversial topics are being discussed. This is what interests me, because I want to help with decision making, leaning into tech support without angering people who might want to attack myself or my family. I don't want to endanger my family, but I want to help. So it's a hard balance to strike. Number 4, levels the playing field. An anonymous system can create a more equal decision-making environment where every participant's voice carries equal weight regardless of their status, background, or reputation. All right, here's the risks. Accountability concerns, right? What about corruption? Anonymity can make it difficult to hold decision makers accountable for their actions and decisions. This lack of accountability may lead to irresponsible or unethical behavior. That's a very important point. Number 2, difficulty in establishing trust. Anonymity can hinder the development of trust among decision makers. Trust is often built through personal interactions and the establishment of credibility, which can be more challenging in an anonymous environment. Number 3, potential for abuse. Anonymity can enable malicious individuals to manipulate or sabotage the decision-making process without being identified. This can lead to poor decisions or harm the collective decision-making environment. Number 4, loss of valuable input. Some decision makers might have valuable expertise or perspectives that could be particularly relevant to certain discussions. Anonymity might make it difficult to identify and leverage this expertise effectively. That reminds me of what I've been pointing out. What happens here on the internet? It's like I have some expertise that other people don't have, but it might be difficult for audience on the internet to recognize my expertise in comparison to others. So when you participate on the internet, there is this anonymity, right? There's an inability to identify expertise. Number 5, difficulty in resolving conflicts. In an anonymous setting, it can be more challenging to resolve disputes or disagreements between decision makers as personal connections and diplomacy may be less effective. And that's an interesting one. So I end up responding, recommend various collective decision-making processes which attempts to account for and balance the benefits and risks of anonymity. For example, the decision makers might have a consistent profile or avatar which conceals their true identity while allowing the individual behind the identity to earn trust. And I think this is the last one, audience. Various collective decision-making processes can be designed to balance the benefits and risk of anonymity while still allowing decision makers to build trust and credibility. Here are some approaches to consider. Number 1, persistent pseudonyms. As you suggested, using consistent profiles or avatars that conceal the true identity of decision makers allows them to build a reputation and trust within the system. This approach maintains anonymity while still enabling accountability and credibility based on the decision makers' track records. So for example, within a Discord server, there can be the staff members or moderators, and they could be called staff member 1, staff member 2, staff member, whatever number. And so when they vote on a decision, for example, if that's the process, then there can be a level of transparency that, that staff member 1 is making decisions and making a lot of mistakes and maybe needs to be, cycled out before the rest. That way, and then you don't know exactly who staff member 1 is, but at least you can hold them accountable, right? So number 2, hybrid model. In this model, decision makers can switch between anonymous and non-anonymous modes. They can choose to participate anonymously during the initial stages of discussion, enabling open and honest discourse. In later stages, when decisions are being finalized or consensus is being built, they could reveal their identities to establish trust and accountability. It's interesting. I like the freedom to be anonymous and say things that might be controversial and explore bad ideas and why they are bad ideas without fear of having your reputation harmed, right? And attracting the attention of people who don't like that you might explore a bad idea and try to understand why that idea is bad. I've run into this before. Number 3, tiered anonymity. This approach involves creating different levels of anonymity for decision makers based on their roles, responsibilities, or expertise. For example, key stakeholders or experts might be identifiable to foster trust and leverage their expertise effectively, while other participants may remain anonymous to encourage open discussion and reduce bias. So you could have tests. So then, staff member number 3 took a test that proves that they are an expert in medicine, specifically surgery, right? And so you can begin to attach credentials onto the pseudonyms of the individuals, the consistent pseudonyms of the individuals who are helping to make decisions. Number 4, deliberation phases. The decision-making process can be structured in phases, with some phases allowing anonymity and others requiring identification. For example, the initial brainstorming phase could be anonymous to encourage a free flow of ideas, while subsequent phases, such as evaluation, ranking, or voting, could require identification to promote accountability and trust. Number 5, group anonymity with designated spokespersons. In this model, decision makers are divided into smaller groups where they can maintain anonymity within their group. Each group selects a spokesperson to represent the group's opinions and decisions in the larger decision-making process. This approach enables open discussion within the smaller groups, while the designated spokespersons can be held accountable for their group's contributions. The spokesperson seems like a scapegoat. That's dangerous for the spokesperson. And so maybe the spokesperson could be the male who has no wife and children, who is willing to, take on the risk, something like that. And the question is that the leader, right? I think sometimes the spokesperson can be confused with the leader. And really, the leaders should probably be behind the scenes and you never see them, But the spokesperson becomes the one who gets all the attention. Okay, number 6, verified anonymity. In this approach, decision makers remain anonymous within the platform, but are verified by an independent party, such as a moderator or administrator, who can vouch for their identity and qualifications. This verification process can help establish credibility and trust without revealing the individual's identity to the entire decision-making group. And that would be, kind of like the process of doing tests, doing analysis to make sure that that consistent pseudonym has the expertise that they claim to have, for example. So I hope you enjoyed that. This is just an exercise in trying to encourage us to use large language models, GPT, for example, in order to learn whatever it is we're interested in learning, and to avoid wasting other people's time and attention, because we all care about different things. And so when you provide feedback to me, I really value that feedback. I can take it to my large language model, for example, and really try to understand, what you're trying to say and why you're saying it. And so this is a demonstration of how to do that. And, ultimately, I would encourage everyone to think a little bit more about how we can innovate with technology and government. And we can apply that within our lives as we develop our own policies, our own guidelines, and communicate those. And as we do that with our spouses, with our companies, with our communities, our neighborhoods, our online communities, and everything. So I hope you found that valuable, and let me know what you think. All right, bye-bye.